Hello viewers and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is HP Fashions GY. So in today's tutorial, we'll be learning on how to cut and sew a bustier with a deep yoke. Okay, so at this point now I'm taking my measurement for the back of the dress. Then I will just have to connect the bust to the waist measurement at this point. All right, so this is what I have. Then I will come up by 2 inches to get my armhole curve, 2.5 inches. Okay, so once this is done, I'll go ahead and cut it all out. Right, so I've cut it out and I've placed it on my front pattern, adding up about 4 inches at the front for a bust waistline. So I'm going down by 10 inches. All right, I'll be going down by 10 inches on the middle part. Then on the side, I'll be coming down by 6 inches. All right, so I was contemplating to use either 6.5 or 6, but I'll make do of 6 inches at this point. All right, so this is exactly how I'm going to get it. So at this point, I'm taking my underbust, which is 13.5. All right, so I'll just mark my underbust, which is 13.5 on this line as well. Okay, so once I'm done getting these, I will just use the broken line to connect it all the way. All right, so once this is done, I'll go ahead and connect it this way to give me a straight line. So after this is done, I'll be getting my bust point measurement. Right, so I'm using 4.2 for this. That's the wideness of the bust from each other. All right, so at this point, I'm taking my bust point, which is 10, 10.5, and 9.5. I'm actually using 3 points. Now I'm making a minus on the down part with 1 inch, and I'm making the up as well 1 inch all together. So I'm actually connecting the front middle side. All right. So on this other side, I'll go ahead and increase it to 1.5. Okay, because I really want the curve to really pop out when we get to fit it on the dress. Right, so at this point now, I'll go ahead and connect this together this way. So once this is done, I'll go ahead and take my neckline measurement. So at this point now, I'll go ahead and connect it this way. All right, so I wouldn't want the yoke to be too wide. It can be deep but not too wide. Okay, so at this point now, I'll just make this connection this way. All right, so at this point now, I'll be taking my bust waistline, the half length and the bust. All right, so I'll be making do of 18.5 inches on the side. Then at the middle, I'll just connect it this way. All right, so this is exactly what it looks like. So once this is setting, I'll go ahead and cut it out. All right, so I'll just go ahead and trim it out right on the line I traced. Okay, so I'll go ahead and remove the yoke gradually and also remove the bustier as well. All right, so this is exactly how I cut everything all out. Okay, so because of the style I'm making, okay, so I need to separate the basque from the bustier, so in order to achieve the style I really want for this dress. All right, so at this point now, this is exactly how it looks like. So I'll go ahead and trim this. Then once I'm done trimming, I'll go ahead and place it on my main fabric and get exactly this, but this time with extra 1 inch allowance on the down part of the fabric. All right, which is for seam allowance. All right, so if my underbust is 13.5, it now be 14.5. So I've placed my pattern paper on my mesh to get my yoke. All right, so I'll be getting a double of this. Alright, so I'll use a pin at this point now to secure all the parts. So I've secured it, so I'll just go ahead and trace it and cut it out. Right, so at this point now, I won't be cutting exactly this. I'll be adding up extra allowance on the upper part of this. Alright, so either I'm actually leaving half an inch. Okay, I won't be leaving up to 1 inch, so I'll be leaving half an inch for this. All right, so at this point now, I actually arrange it well, then trim up the excess mesh at the upper part. Right, so I'm leaving half an inch this way, so I'll be getting another which is double of it. All right, so at this point now I'll be getting the neck line for this. I'll be using my pattern paper. Right, I'm using a wideness of 3 inches, then depth of 3 inches. All right, or 2.5. So at this point now just go ahead and connect with 3 inches 2.5. Then I'll go ahead and slant my shoulder, which is actually very important. So once this is done, I'll place it on the main mesh. Make sure that everything is perfectly equal. Then I'll use my pin to secure at this point. And I'll also go ahead and trim it out. Okay, so this is exactly how I trimmed it out. Then at this point now I want to slant my shoulder, but I'll go ahead and remove the pins on the mesh. All right, then I'll go ahead and trim this out. All right, so this is actually the front part. So at this point now I've joined my neckline. I'm just stop stitching the downside of the yoke. All right, I've joined the neckline. I used one net to turn the other, to sew and turn like you're sewing with fabric and a lining. All right, so one served as a lining for the other. All right, so this is it. So I'm just stop stitching to get exactly the shape I want, so that I can go ahead and join my bustier and add my yoke to it. All right, so you can choose to make your yoke as deep as any depending on how you want it. All right, like I said, I want my yoke deep but not wide. All right, so that was how I reduced the wideness of the yoke. All right, so at this point now just go ahead and top stitch right at the tip of this. Okay, so at this point now, once this is done, I'll trim the excess mesh or net from the yoke. Okay, so I'll go ahead and trim it all out. All right, so once this is done, I'm going to keep this aside. So this is what I have. So this is exactly how the bustier looks like. So I actually added 1 inch to this. So this is the extra allowance I added at the front for joining. All right, like half an inch for this. All right, so this is how it looks like. So at this point now I also got a hairstay for my bustier. Then I'm using a breast pad for this. So at this point now I'll go ahead and join my bustier. All right, so I'm actually using half an inch to do this joining. All right, so this is how I joined it. All right, because at this point now the bustier is in 4 pieces. All right, because of the yoke at the middle. All right, so at this point now, just have to follow the shape exactly the way it is. All right, I will ensure to maintain the same measurement. All right, because I really don't want to use a different measurement for this. All right, so this is exactly what it looks like. This is actually one of it. Then I'll go ahead and join the second one. Once I'm done joining the second one, I'll go ahead and give them a very nice press. All right, so this is exactly how it looks like. All right, so try to get this right. All right, so the curve is actually, for me, it's actually good. All right, so this is exactly how I joined this. So once this is done at this point, I'll keep them aside and go ahead and give them a very nice press. Okay, so this is what I have at this point. All right, so at this point now I've ironed it. So I'm going to introduce my yoke to this. All right, so I'll place it this way to get the shape exactly the way it is, and I'll turn it this way. I'll use my needle to secure at this point. Right, so I also got my lining. I actually joined my lining. So I joined my lining exactly the way I joined the bustier here. All right, so they are of after joining, I'll be having them in 2 pieces. All right, so I've joined my lining and I've also ironed them exactly the way I joined my main fabric. So at this point now, I'm using my pin to secure the mesh to the dress, to bustier. So at this point now, I'll be using 1/2 inch to do this sewing to connect at this point. Alright, so at this point now, I'll be using my line. I'll place my line in this way. Then I'll sew right at the tip for this. Alright, so if you find this video very helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't also forget to share my videos. Don't forget to turn up your notification button so whenever we post new videos you get notification and follow up. Don't also forget to share new ideas or new suggestion on what you think this bustier should be, okay, or what you think I would have used instead of this method. All right, so this is exactly how I joined this. So I'll actually join this right at the tip. Alright, so I actually arrange while I sew. So once I get after the side where the yoke stops, I will just go ahead and stitch at that point. I'll go ahead and stitch at this point, then stop right at where the yoke stops. Alright, so I'll turn it up now for you to see exactly how I placed this. Alright, so this is it. This is where the yoke stopped. So I'm trying to arrange this. Alright, so this is where the yoke stop at this point. So that's where I stitched and stop. So at this point now, I will have to connect this point as well to repeat the same procedure. I will use my pin to secure this. So once I'm done pinning, then I'll also use my lining at this point to also turn it all up. Okay, so at this point I'm done. I'm still pinning before I will introduce my lining. So at this point now, I will go ahead and place the lining this way. Then I will start my sewing right at the yoke point. All right, I will start my sewing right at the yoke point. Then I will stitch right there to secure the stitches. Okay, I'm going to start right at the yoke point. Alright, so at this point now I will remove my pin. Then I'm going to stitch here very well. Then at this point now I'll have to arrange my yoke while I join. Alright, so this is actually a very nice method for this. Alright, so at this point now I'm just connecting this way to give it a very nice finishing. Alright, so this is how I did my connection. Alright, so at this point, remember I provided 1/2 inch for joining. Alright, so at this point now we'll be using the 1/2 inch provided for this. Alright, so I will sew all the way to the end of the dress where it stopped, and I will stitch right there, take off the excess thread, then trim out this. Alright, so that 1/2 inch I provided, at this point this is how it looks like. I will go ahead and separate the lining from the main fabric. I'll place the main fabric together like this. Then I will sew right at the tip with the 1/2 inch I provided. I will stitch and I will sew. Then I will stop right at the yoke point. Then I will stitch at this point now. Alright, so once I'm done, I'll take off the excess thread. Then I will still repeat the same procedure on the lining. Alright, so I will sew with 1/2 inch, stitch, then stop right at the yoke point. Alright, so once this is done, I'm taking off the excess thread. Then this is how it looks like when I'm done sewing. Alright, this is exactly how it looks like. Alright, so I'll just go ahead and arrange this. This is how it looks like. Okay, so I'll go ahead and give it a very nice press. I'll go ahead and iron it very well to make everything relax properly. This is the inner side of it. Alright, so this is the outer part of it. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Looking very neat, looking seamlessly neat. Alright, So this is how it looks like. So at this point now, go ahead and add up my accessories. All right, so this is the final look of it. Don't forget to turn up your notification button. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and also comment, okay? All right, so see you in my next video. See you next time. Bye.